Hey, welcome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Aunties Talk Sports. I am Jennifer, aka Auntie Jen.
And I'm Kalia, aka Auntie Kalia.
And we are two aunties, two mics, all game. So we start off the show. We'll start off by talking about some of the major headlines or what caught your attention this week. What was the one thing or one headline or story narrative that caught your attention this week?
Yeah, so I think we had kind of talked last night about a few things, but then today what hit the news, like during the day, Jim was texting me like, hey, did you see that the Knicks ended up firing Coach Tibbs? And so we could not believe it. Just fresh off an appearance in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years, and obviously brought a lot of excitement back, right, to New York City. The Knicks are back in play. And I think, given their personnel, the fact that they didn't have a true bench, they performed very well, but obviously it wasn't enough. And so I think that has, the sports world really talking today. But I think before that, I was really pissed off about Anthony Edwards and his post-game comments after they, lost to OKC. What about you?
Yeah, Coach Tibbs definitely caught my attention and just, blew everything else I was thinking out of the water. Not only did he coach his team to the finals for the first time in 25 years, the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years, but the last 4 out of 5 years, he's taken them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I'm not sure what coach now can come in and immediately take them to win a championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to gel with the team, right? And so to start all over, it's almost like you're starting over, unless they go get, what's his name, Mike Malone, who's been there. Maybe they had a plan.
Yeah.
But before that, I was more fascinated the last couple of weeks by the tush push living on. I'm like, how y'all gonna hate on the tush push? I mean, that was the big story for me because I'm like waiting for football to come back. But
that was hilarious. I mean, I think, of course, every team wants to win a championship, but I feel like owners, right, front office staff have to really evaluate, is that a realistic goal for where you are. After the Knicks got sent fishing, I saw the rounds of Becky Hammon and a lot of her comments about Brunson and really saying that the Knicks don't have the dude, right, to really win a championship. And so she pointed to, right, the long list of kind of smaller point guards who hadn't been able to take their team all the way. And obviously people are going to mention Steph Curry, but she was like, Steph isn't as small, right, as people would think. He's about 6'3", but her and kind of Kendrick Perkins were going back and forth about that. And I do enjoy the Knicks. I think they are entertaining. I do think that Cat is an acquired taste, but to me, they still seem one player short of kind of at least one player short of winning a championship. Yes. And then of course the Pacers kind of emerged. I don't really want to say out of nowhere, but I think definitely are punching above their weight class this year.
Yeah. They're one consistent player away because they have role players, but they're not as consistent as they should be. You can't take quarters off, can't take halves off. So, that was the big story. That just broke today. So that just blew everything else out of the water. Before we move on, for those who don't know what the tush push is, it's when a football team, when the offense is trying to get maybe 1 yard, and they literally will push the tush of the guard or to push the quarterback forward to sneak the ball to get that yard. So that's the tush push. There were teams trying to ban it, but they had to have 24 teams approve it, but they only had 22 teams, so they were short. Yeah. So anyway.
And I didn't realize that the controversy around the tush push is like people feel like it's more of a rugby play, not necessarily something that was derived more so from football. But right. I ended up watching this long video about it on YouTube.
Those are the teams that can't stop it. So we're gonna move on. But those stories, it's gonna be very interesting, especially with the Knicks over this summer.
All right. Well, now let's get into Fresh Off the Field, where Jen is going to take us through the top sports headlines of the week. So up first, Jen.
The NBA Finals. You have OKC, you have Indiana, two small market teams. That is probably the biggest story, coming up. Those teams, OKC had the season best record of 68-14. So that's the first story. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll go on to a couple of more stories that are tops this week. But let's talk about a little bit about the finals. Both teams are 12-4 in the playoffs. Again, OKC had the 68-14 record during the season, and everybody wants to know, was it a fluke? And so let's talk about why or how each team can win. Why would you think, if you are for OKC, why would you think they could win? And if you're for Indiana, why do you think they could win?
Well, I don't really have a horse in the race, obviously.
Indiana?
I'm not. Yes, I am from Indiana, but I'm not necessarily a Pacers fan, although I did enjoy Hallie trying to do the choke Selly, even though he was a 3-pointer short.
What the Hallie?
But I do think that they are entertaining to watch. I think obviously Halliburton, right, is he is what kind of takes them over the top, right? His play, his ability to play make, get others involved. Obviously, right, he always has very low, turnovers. I think they're a pretty well-rounded team. I was doing a little bit of reading about, I think it's Nesmith, the young man who ended up hitting like 7 threes or whatever in one of the games, because to me he was kind of completely unknown. But I also think that drawing a blank, what's his name, he won the MVP,
Pascal,
yes, but what's his last? Siakam. He, I think, gives them a little bit of an advantage simply because he's won a championship before. Right. And so I think that was really instrumental for them. But, I'm excited. I think that it's going to be a great kind of even pairing. I think they're probably each going to get a win on each other's court. But based on our first episode, when we were talking about the new faces of the league and who's the face of the league, you have two small market teams, but you obviously have two stars, right? Emerging stars. And so I think this is good for the league. Even if people don't watch, we'll see kind of how the viewership is. But what about you?
I don't, Detroit's not playing, so I really don't.
Come on.
But I think this might, I don't know. The scores were kind of high in the conference finals, but I wanted to say that it would be offense against defense. OKC's defense in the IND's offense, but both of them. My mother called me one night when Minnesota had beaten OKC by 43 points. So she said, "Is this score right?" My mother, who invented the hook shot, remember her?
Right, yeah.
But, I love an underdog. And Indiana's been an underdog every series they've played. It's been 25 years since they went to the finals. Mm-hmm. That was back in Reggie Miller's days. And I kind of think that they want to win it for Reggie. I love an underdog. So I'm happy about the matchup. I probably will watch. But I really don't really have a favorite here. I like both teams for different reasons, and that happens a lot. If a Detroit team's not, I'm a true homer, and if a Detroit team is not playing, I will root for both teams for different reasons. So yeah, I just love that the small market teams are, it can't always be Lakers and Celtics. Like, come on, that's old.
Yeah, well, I know some of the feedback that we got from our first episode was we need to hit the stats. So we're gonna give you a little bit of statistics, right? So Tyrese Halliburton, leading all players in this year's playoffs with 9.8 assists per game, and again, just 1.9 turnovers per game. He's recorded double figure assists in 9 of the Pacers' 16 playoff games. He also, struggled to shoot the ball a little bit earlier in the season, but is averaging just under 21 points a game at 53% shooting for the year. And then also, has been shooting about 46% in the playoffs. So, what's crazy is that he missed the All-Star game, right, this year. So you think you're going to get your team all the way to the finals, but wasn't even named a All-Star, which I think is a travesty. And then on the other side, the ticker tape, we have SGA, who led the NBA, obviously, in scoring with 32.7 points per game, shooting about 52% from the floor. It's funny, people were saying that SGA is kind of boring to watch. He's very methodical in how he approaches the game, but he's a better than average 3-point shooter, making about 38% of his attempts, and averages about 6.4 assists per game. So, as far as scoring is concerned, obviously SGA comes out a little bit ahead, but I definitely think Halliburton's ability to distribute the ball really gets more of his teammates, involved. And SGA's defense is not that great, right? They kind of built their defensive team around him. So it'll be interesting to see if a part of the Pacers strategy is to really make SGA play some more defense.
SGA be flopping. Okay. He be flopping.
He just looked like he don't play defense. I'm sorry. I feel like he moved too slow, especially when he walked down the tunnel in his outfits. You can't be overly concerned with how you look when you play defense. Yeah. So is he too cute to play defense?
We won't go too much further into that because we'll talk about that a lot more on next episodes as the finals take place. But I did want to say, with Halliburton, he's the star, but I don't know, maybe I didn't watch it enough, but Siakam was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP over Halliburton. To me that was big, but people didn't really say too much. Well, I don't know if they said anything.
Yeah, by one vote, so it was close. But before we wrap this part up, who are you calling for tonight's game? You gonna give it to OKC or the Pacers?
So I give it to OKC because the format is 2-2-1-1-1. Home court advantage belongs to OKC, but Indiana has been known to go into people's home court and spoil their home opener. But I'm giving it to OKC. They're just the crowd alone. The 13. How many people they got?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna stick to the home team. I'm gonna go with the Pacers for the first game. Like they get one on OKC. And I will say this before we transition. I was going on a work trip to Tulsa, and I planned a trip. It was the last home game of the season. OKC versus the Lakers. Had a car service come and pick us up for the game, taking up our colleagues. It's about an hour and a half. Got pretty good seats. I was so excited. I got sick. And everybody went without me.
Oh, no.
I was in the bed. I thought I had COVID. It wasn't COVID, but I was so pissed. I was like, I planned our site visit around, and we have been trying to go to Tulsa for about a year and a half, but I looked at the calendar to make sure that we could get an OKC game in while we were there, and I missed it. So just a fun fact. When I travel, I am trying to see a game someplace. Yes. So up next, you talked about the Tigers, right? Having the best record in all of MLB at 40-21. Such a long season.
Oh yeah. 182.
Yes.
They go, or was it 162? I don't know. But yes, they don't just have the best record in the American League or American League Central, they have the best record in all of Major League Baseball. Okay. That's a feat. A lot. That and I'm going to tell you, they have their manager is AJ Hinch. Mm-hmm. If you know, AJ Hinch is a World Series manager. Mm-hmm. He was cheating up. They were cheating up in Houston, down in Houston at the Astros. So he got ousted. But he is a World Series manager, and he's proving that with these Tigers. Nobody was really expecting the Tigers to do anything, and a lot of people are saying it's a fluke. We have a true ace, Tarek Skubal, whatever, Skubal. And with his tight pants. He be wearing tight pants. They so tight. But he is a bad mamma jamma. Okay.
So the pants tight on the field or off the field or both?
On the field. Tighty whities, because they be wearing the white pants and they are so tight. Like if he fart, they going to blow.
But I have a confession, because I don't really like baseball. For me, for me to like baseball, everything has to be right. So first time I went to see the Tigers, it was like wonderful summer night here in Detroit. Fireworks, and they won with a walk-off home run. My first game. I was like, I love baseball.
You can't go nowhere but down from there. Wait.
Shannon was like, the game ain't always like this. No. So I find baseball to be very boring, especially in person, but I just love being outside in the summer, right, or early fall, and just kind of taking it in, right, when you're outside, and, the stadium is beautiful, but I'm not. And I think it has to do with, like, my grandfathers used to watch baseball, and they used to make me sit down and watch, and I'll be like, this is boring. But I know, like, the lore of the Tigers and how much it would mean to the city, right, if we had a deep run. Because it's been a nice drought.
Yeah.
15 years?
Yeah. 2006, we almost did it, but those 1984 Bless You Boys were that... I was 12 years old then. I was like, Detroit was on fire. That was hype back then. I'm old, so
if the Tigers go far and they make a run, just think this year, right, in Detroit, I think we've solidified ourselves as a legitimate sports town, right?
Absolutely.
Because we have the Tigers if they make a deep run. So you got baseball, right? Of course, the Lions have had 2 really great seasons the past 2 years. We had Pistons make the playoffs. So if the Tigers can bring it home and go into the late into the playoffs and maybe make the World Series, Detroit is going to be flying high. You ain't going to be able to tell us nothing.
We just got to get Stevie Eiserman to get those Red Wings together, and then we need to get that WNBA team here that used to win championships. So, and then we'll be fine. But I wanted to stay home and talk about yesterday's news that Frank Ragnow from the Lions is retiring, and offensive line, we can't, the Lions can't afford any more people leaving, okay? Lost coaches, coordinators. So the big question mark is what are the Lions going to do this year? Everybody wants to know, again, we're getting a summer of hype with Jameson Williams, J-Mo. They're talking about how good he looks. They say that every summer. I love J-Mo though. I love that he's so young, and he makes these mistakes, but I just, they really support him. I love him. But, you know, it remains to be seen if the Lions, if they can
pull
stay
it together.
The course.
Yeah, I mean, I think what was surprising to me about him retiring is that he's only 29 years old, you know, and so he was just talking about the deterioration of his body, you know, wanting to make sure that, you know, as he continues to get older, right, he has a higher quality of life. But, you know, I think that has to be difficult, you know, and he said it was the hardest decision of my life, you know, because I always think about that, you know, as players retire, especially, you know, in sports that are physical, football, you know, being, you know, the most brutal is that you can be 32, 33, which is so young, and have kind of wrecked the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's from a physical standpoint. You know, I think about Matt Barnes and All the Smoke talking about his chronic pain and how he was having a conversation with his son about, you know, smoking marijuana and the fact that he does it because without it, he, you know, is in so much pain that he really can't manage day to day. Yeah, Calvin Johnson.
The whole company because of it.
Yeah. No, the Lions they will have people retire early on you.
Yeah. Well, he started a whole cannabis company because he was in constant pain. That was the only way to relieve the pain.
Yeah.
You know, Calvin is very open about his marijuana use or his cannabis use because I don't know the difference. I don't smoke.
You said cannabis versus what?
Marijuana.
I think it's the same thing, Jen. No, it's the difference between THC and CBD.
Tell me you don't smoke without telling me you don't smoke. Like, I don't know.
So, listen, I'm looking straight at the camera, kids.
You heard.
The aunties.
Somebody told you.
The aunties do not partake, okay? But just to give, again, we got to hit people with the stats. So Ragnow was the 20th overall selection by the Lions in the 2018 draft and started all 16 games as a rookie. In his 7 years with the Lions, he earned a second team All-Pro honors 3 times and then was also named to the Pro Bowl on 4 different occasions. Yeah. I think the best part just about, you know, his time with the Lions is that he started out among that core group that helped the Lions go from literally the worst team, right, in the NFL to being Super Bowl contenders, right, really close over the past 2 years. And so I'm wondering, do you think that they have a conversation with him this offseason about maybe a role that he can continue to play on the staff or maybe in, you know, player development, front office, because that's a large part of the culture of your team potentially being lost.
They might have already had that conversation. Yeah. We'll see. And he said, you know, I thought I could play. You know, I felt like I could, you know, play, but then I said no. And he's earned it. He's earned this retirement. You know, most of the NFL players don't have a long playing life, you know?
Yeah.
And my nephew is what? I don't even know how old he is. Maybe 5. He's out there playing football right now. He be running all over.
How old is he? Is he like a teenager?
No, or baby, like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Girl, I've been going out there like, run that way, DJ, run that way. Like they just run all over the place. But he's playing now. They play Little League. So he's 29 or whatever, but he's played, you know, most of his life.
Yeah, it's a lot of wear and tear. I mean, now.
And they don't have a long playing life.
Yeah, especially now, you know, I mean, we can talk about youth sports ad nauseum, but, you know, kids now, especially football players here in Michigan, now they playing 7-on-7, Florida, Georgia, traveling. But next, the last thing we want to talk about is just the French Open. So all U.S. quarterfinals match. We have Madison Keys and Coco Gauff. I like Madison, but Coco is my girl. I feel like she's finally hitting her stride, and not from necessarily a play standpoint, but for her confidence. I loved when she was popping her ish a couple of weeks ago. Like, I just feel like that will give her and kind of cultivate the competitive fire in her, you know, to kind of break out. Sometimes I feel like can be a little bit timid or maybe uncertain, you know, but that kind of, you know, unabashed confidence, I think is really important for her to move on.
Yeah. I'm going to watch this because I'm interested to see what happens. I think, I watch most Coco Gauff matches and she will self-destruct.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll go from kicking somebody's butt. She'll go from dominating to like double faulting, just can't serve right. And then I remember her old coach, last couple of years ago, she had an old coach. He was an older gentleman. And she was messing up on the court. So she started hollering at him and he's in the stands. So if she could keep her composure, she can win this match. But I do not discount Madison Keys because they both had some tough second matches in their last match. They both took their opponents, they won 7-5. So that means they had a playoff in that last set. So they kind of let their opponents back in the game. And so it just, if they could be consistent, whoever could be the most consistent, they'll win that match and then see if they can go further. So, but yeah, that'll be an interesting one. That's tomorrow. And I'm going to be watching that. I got to figure out, I was trying to see what time it was coming on, but the times, they'll tell you a time and then you get on there and you wait an hour for it to come on. You're like, come on.
People in my house will get up in the middle of the night and watch tennis. It's nuts. I won't do that, but
their times aren't right.
Yeah, I mean, they're right. They just different. The other day
they told me 9:30. I'm all up like, hey, it's 9:30. It didn't come on till 11:30. I'm like, I ain't got time for this. I can't be waiting.
You need to go to sleep. Because aunties gotta go bed early, but yes. we are gonna transition,
which we did not do last night.
We did not. Morning. So just so our listeners know, we stayed up until 2:00 this morning, kind of talking about sports, talking about our second episode, what we could improve upon, and then was tired.
I had to get up for a 9:30 physical therapy appointment.
Right.
Because I'm old and I got an old.
And I ended up having to take a nap this afternoon in the parking lot of a restaurant.
Oh, no.
Yes, I did. I was like, let me catch this quick nap. So lessons learned. We can stay up a little late, but not too late. But now we're going to get into the good part, which is Full Court Press, where we do a deep dive on a passionate topic, a topic that we're both passionate about, that's sports related. So we actually talked about this last night, but today we really want to dive deeper into literally what is really shaping the narrative behind the WNBA. Honestly, from a race and gender standpoint, I feel like in our first episode, we talked about obviously Caitlin Clark, but so much has happened since that first episode. Obviously, the matchup between the Sky, right, and the Fever, and then it was like the foul heard around the world, right? It was the online arguing between Ryan Clark, your fave, and RG3, and all the backlash talking about people's wives, baby mamas, kids, the whole nine, and it's continued. And so I know this was really on your mind and you really wanted to talk about it today. So let's go.
So I was disappointed. I didn't like that the WNBA scheduled Chicago and Indiana in the first game of the season. I didn't really like that because they're forcing this narrative. And they know what they're doing. They're forcing this narrative and then like throwing a rock and hide in their hand. They are in the same conference. And normally, well, I maybe the WNBA is different, but like, the first game was New York. Was it New York and Minnesota or was it New York and Vegas? But I didn't like that they put them as the first game because they know what they're doing. They're feeding into that narrative, right? And then the foul that was, so Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese pushed her Indiana opponent under the basket. She pushed her and got the rebound. And then Caitlin Clark came and pushed Angel Reese. And she extended her arms when she pushed her, right? So the referee, they reviewed it. They called a flagrant 1 foul,
which she did not agree with. She complained about.
Yes, and that's and we're going to talk about that complaining too, because I got a lot to say about that. Okay, I'm so sick of it. She extended her arms. So when you extend your arms when you're fouling somebody, and they could see that, they're going to call that. It's and the way, and they're like, "Oh, Angel flopped." It could have been flopped, could have been she was off balance, but she extended her arms, so she made the call easy for them, right? So, nobody they wanted to ignore that. Yeah. Caitlin Clark was like, they got the call wrong, and she's always every foul. She never commits a foul, because every foul she's complaining. She was doing it at Iowa so much, her father was in the stands and told her to cut it out. She complains about every call. It's always like exaggerated, like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I get tired of it. It's annoying.
Well, I mean, I think for me, you could say that it was a basketball play. She put a little bit of extra dip on the chip, right? It was a little bit of extra, like you said, extension. Yes. And I think that Angel's reaction, right, was warranted. Anybody else gives you a hard foul like that, you're going to have some words for them.
Oh, right. Angel got up and went after.
And was like, what is wrong with you, right? Yes. So, people were debating whether or not that showed that Angel doesn't really like her. I think they respect each other. They respect each other's game. They respect each other's positioning in the league. Are they friends? No. Do they like each other? I would say no, right? I feel like Angel has been very transparent, even when she was like at LSU, about the double standard, right? With Caitlin being like, you can't see me. So everybody know what it is. Let's not pretend.
But if they're on the same team, they friends. Watch. They're gonna end up on the same team.
I mean, we can play together, but that doesn't mean that you're gonna be my girl. No. But what I think set it off, right, was the fact that RG3, right, said that he knew what hate looked like, and he knew that Angel Reese hated Caitlin Clark.
Probably because people hate him. I mean, is that what he got that from? Here's the thing. This is another thing. So we're talking about race and gender, right?
Yes.
I am sick of men, grown ass men, going after women, period. But Angel Reese is 23 years old.
Yeah.
RG3 got to be 43. And he did a whole monologue about how she hates Caitlin Clark. Not only did he do that, he had his wife sitting in the back clapping and so and then Ryan Clark called him out,
which was the shadiest of all.
He went there. Some of it I agree with. You're kind of out of touch, and why are you talking about Caitlin Clark Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese like that? What was the point of that?
Well, I mean, I think a part of it was, one, to keep his engagement, his social media engagement high. Everybody knows you talk about Caitlin Clark, you talk about Angel Reese, you're going to get a lot of replies, you're going to get a lot of shares, right? It's going to drive your engagement up. And that's a lot of what matters, right? Mm-hmm. For media stars. But to your point, so I love a race and gender analysis.
What's your shirt say?
And the thing that bothers me the most, and we talked about this last night, right, is that historically, white women have been placed on a pedestal, seen as the epitome of femininity, seen as the gender most in need of protection, right? Most in need of advocates, whether or not those advocates and that protections comes from white men, Black women, or whoever, right? All the other genders, right, are supposed to, protect right? White women historically. So to me, you can't talk about Caitlin Clark. You can't talk about Angel Reese without that understanding. And so what I hate is that RG3 continues to play into that stereotype that Angel Reese is an angry Black woman. She obviously is jealous. She hates Caitlin Clark. And
he said hate.
Right. And Caitlin Clark is innocent. And so he posted an image and said, caption this. And what I said was, I hate when a person throw the rock and hide their hand. Yes. I feel like that is Caitlin to a T.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You can't see me. Oh, I didn't do anything. You make a hard foul. Then you get into the presser and you're like, oh, I don't know what the big deal was. Because again, if the shoe was on the other foot, which it was, right? Last year with Kennedy, Angel's teammate, everybody was up in arms. So I liked what Aja Wilson said yesterday. It's like, we are physical in the WNBA.
We're trained to be physical.
We are trained to be physical. We're physical. We're grown women. Just because people put a hard foul or they play tough doesn't mean you're intentionally trying to hurt anyone. Doesn't mean that you don't like us. We don't like them. Let us play. But again, this gets to the core of it. One, you have mostly Black women in the WNBA. You have a high percentage of more mass presenting women playing. Right. And so at the crux of it, the WNBA is challenging notions of what femininity is about.
Right.
Right.
And Asia said that because I watch all these games, right? She was in a game over the weekend and she gave a hard foul on her opponent, right? And she's standing over her opponent to pick her up, to help her get up. And somebody in the crowd is like instigating, like, oh, making a narrative that she tried to take the player out. And and Asia was like, stop saying that. Don't say that. Like, you're creating this narrative that is not true. It was a basketball play. I'm trying to help my opponent up. But now you're instigating and you're fueling a fire that's not there. And you're creating this narrative. So she had to come out and say that. And we constantly have to say that. The commissioner last year fumbled the bag, literally on live TV when they asked her about race in the WNBA, and she, act like it didn't exist, or racism in the WNBA. And she act like, so their leader doesn't even understand it. They had to tell her what mistakes she made because she wouldn't have even been able to explain the mistake she made and how she addressed it. Because I still think she's clueless. I think she probably has a PR person that told her what to say, but I don't think they have the right leader.
Yeah, and I think the depth of understanding of why it's problematic, right? Because you have to be willing to confront or at least understand, right? The kind of founding of this country, why, right? People are so focused on pitting, right, certain groups of people against one another. And it's been a perfect storm. If you think about what's happened in our country, right? We got deep last night talking about social media, the election, the fact that, trolling, right? And bots have increased. So a lot of it, you don't even know if it's a real person, right? Making all of these comments. And so it's been like this perfect storm. And unfortunately, right, there are people who could potentially get hurt, right? So I think the fact that, players have spoken out about their safety being at risk, people confronting them, people stalking them. I know it's been a couple of players to talk about, stalking and things like that. Right, Angel Reese. And so they are going to teams are going to now have to think about security, right, for players.
Right. They had them walking through airports last year and had to quickly get them private planes.
That's right. Yes, because violence against women. So that's the thing. It's like you're a female, you're high profile, right? We know in this country that there's high percentages of violence against women. So to your point, the commissioner has to be on her A game, because if not, we could have a potential, situation that really kind of continues to balloon, but, again, RG3, I think he was wrong for it. And I also think that Ryan Clark was accurate. When you do not have a Black woman in your life that is talking to you about the sexism and racism that they're facing on a day-to-day basis, you just don't have insight into that. So,
because there's no way his Black mother had a talk with him and he came out and said some crap like that. There's no way that he's talking openly about race in his house or with his mother, or if he has a sister or whatever. Like, there's no way that you come on camera and talk like that. And he was what's the outro? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't even like
between the two of them.
Yeah.
And you know what? I wanted to like RG3, and I thought he was
corny.
I like corny. I'm a nerd, right? But
you can be cute and corny, or you can just be like ick and corny. He's ick and corny.
Yeah. But I thought he was good on the he was calling college games. Yeah. I like people's personality when they're calling a game. I kind of learned people outside of, like, on the field. He because he wouldn't slide, like, he got a lot of hate in his career, so I think he's just projecting. But to project on a 23-year-old woman, and
you're talking about projection, out, right? So let's just think about this, right? It's like, it's obvious, and I feel like Ryan Clark talked about, right, how he's kind of fetishized his wife, right, by continuing to refer to her as a glass of tall milk.
Yes,
so
like, that's sickening.
It's true. Or I know a number of aunties have seen it play out when you maybe have an awkward young man who is Black, maybe he's dark skinned, girls didn't really check for him, all of that stuff. You think of Jay-Z's lyric where you talk about girls calling him ugly growing up, and then now once he made it, what I'm saying, those same girls is trying to kick it with him. And so I think sometimes men can harbor resentment, right, against
that's what I used to say about Dennis Rodman.
That's right. You can harbor resentment, and then it comes out in conversation. It comes out in who you give the benefit of the doubt. It comes out based on who you think should be protected, who you think is valued. And I think that's what we're seeing with RG3. But the other thing that I wanted to say was just about kind of the tenor of, even in the NBA, what irks my soul is the number of NBA players who have stated that Black women are jealous of Caitlyn. It has gotten on my nerves. And again, right? Yes, jealous. They jealous of her, and this carried on.
Nobody is jealous of Caitlyn Clark. Let me just tell you,
right? But I feel like it carried on last year, and that was her rookie season. So what I was hoping for was for everybody to be to collectively turn the page this season, right, and allow people to just get out there.
They doubled down.
They have doubled down
so much that Caitlyn Clark has been out for the last few games, and she's still she's still the center of attention. They've had whole broadcasts where Caitlyn Clark wasn't even in the game, and the whole storyline was about Caitlyn Clark. She's on the sideline arguing calls where her coach has to push her back, and she's still the center of attention. I'm like, it's exhausting, and like I don't like that she shoots threes. I like the way she passes. I want to see her succeed. I want to like her. But it's the people and the narratives that come with it that it's exhausting.
Well, I hope so. The new coach for the Fever this year is Stephanie White, and so
she sure ran away from Connecticut and ran right over there back to Indiana.
Yeah, but I mean, most people may not know if they don't follow basketball. Again, Indiana, hometown girl, but
she's like, let me get back there.
That's right. Stephanie White, she actually was born and raised in Indiana. I think she's a little bit older than me, but she played in Indiana. She was, so she was a year older than me. She was 1995 Indiana Miss Basketball. She was the Gatorade National Player of the Year, USA Today National Player of the Year. So she was from kind of Lebanon, Indiana. I think she did a stint. Yep, she played at Purdue. They won the championship when she was there in Purdue in 1999, and then played in the WNBA. So I knew that Stephanie was going to try to get home to coach Caitlin Clark.
She's exhausting too, because she argues every call, just like Caitlin. She's over there arguing calls. She's like, "Get back, Caitlin. I'll argue this one for you. I got this."
But she should.
But every call, but it is so exhausting.
The coach should be arguing it, not the player. But I'm hoping.
She's like, "Hold on, Caitlin, I got this." And she starts arguing and flailing her arms like Caitlin does. And it's like, girl,
but I'm hoping that Stephanie, because she's, again, been in the game for such a long time, I'm hoping that she will be able to really mentor Caitlin and hopefully just get her to show up as a professional. I feel like Caitlin right now is still playing and still carrying herself like she's in college. Yes. The other thing I want to say, and we talked about this as well, I'm sorry, Mama and former teammates and coaches, but as somebody who played basketball in high school, AAU, it wasn't anything to get called the N-word growing up playing basketball, traveling. They
did a whole investigation. They didn't
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody said nothing.
When it came out that there was slurs and stuff being yelled, I was like, oh.
And that's just a Tuesday.
That don't sound implausible, And so it was funny because you were shocked. You were like, "Really?" When you was playing people, and I remember us beating.
Because I hear about it, but I didn't know anybody who told me they experienced it. But I'm sure all the guys that played.
Most definitely, I can vividly remember our high school team playing. It was either high school or middle school.
See, I would have been fighting.
But we had won. We had beat them, and we were walking, pulling out in the bus. And, people who were in the community were yelling at us, "Get out of here," and then words. And I remember playing, and I shared this story with you offline, traveling around Indiana and going to some of my teammates' houses, and one mother stopping me before I came in the house saying, "I want you to know I'm not racist, but I have mammies in the house." You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, well, why are you telling me this? But I also told you.
What's the I'm not racist. Oh, yeah.
Right, okay. I'm not racist, but
you gotta say it.
I laugh about it because I've always been the same. And I have a picture for me playing basketball with a shirt on that says "Black by nature, proud by choice." So I probably was the unofficial, militant mascot for the team. And so I remember her meeting me in the driveway. Like, "You gonna come in, you gonna see these mammies. I'm sorry."
And they're like, "Mammy."
Right, I'm sorry. And I just remember being like, why are you talking to me? But then also, why are you collecting, this memorabilia about Black people?
Yeah.
So I
like a collection. Where do you even get a collection of mammies from?
But you know what?
You have to search for them mammies.
Unfortunately, that's happened to me again. The past 10 years, I went to somebody's house in Metro Detroit, and sure enough, walked in their kitchen and it was some mammies. I said, "Oh no, it's time to go."
You have to go searching for mammies.
Yes, but that is sometimes a part of people's, what I learned with this family, it's a part of the collectibles that have been passed down from generation to generation. But the person, God bless her heart, donated it to the white supremacist museum here. I think it's at Grand Valley State. But Indiana, get your people, right? Get your people, and let's get it together. But we'll see. I want us to collectively turn the page, but I don't think that it's going to get better until there is something, unfortunately, that happens. And I hate to say that, but I don't see the players. I don't see the commissioner or media changing their tone to really ensure that players in the league are safe. But
Caitlin Clark, she's going to have a good career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, she is not the MVP of the WNBA. She is not the best player in the WNBA. We can argue about Nafisa Collier or Asia Wilson.
Yeah,
we can argue about those two. Caitlin Clark's not in that conversation. So let her have her career, develop her career, and
see where she lands.
Because stop trying to force this narrative. I understand she's brought attention to the league. A lot of it, the wrong attention, not by her doing, but just by her being. Okay, and it's no fault of her. She's finally speaking up about it. Let's hope that she continues. Don't let these people ride your back on racism. Like, that's just ridiculous. So.
Yeah, and I want to say too that I think men, women, people who are gender non-conforming need to accept the fact that women or female presenting, mass presenting people who play in the WNBA, that let them compete. Right, the same passion, the same fervor, right? The same commitment should be acceptable in the WNBA as it is in any other league. I think so we've kind of wrapped that up. So we want to transition to overtime or game over.
Yes.
This is my favorite segment, I think, exploring the intersection of pop culture and sports. So we are going to decide if we're going to devote more time to the topic. If so, we're going to say overtime. We're going to overtime. If not, game over. So let's see, Jen.
So our first topic is Charlie and Sam Woods. Those are Tiger Woods' kids. Sam is choosing to go to Stanford. Charlie chose, I don't think he was going. I mean,
right, he's not. I mean, he's not.
So
I don't think he's a singer.
Is that game over or overtime? Game over.
We said game over. It's a little bit premature, right? Sam doesn't play. The daughter doesn't play golf. Obviously, Charlie is considered a phenom like his dad. He said he ain't going to college at Stanford. It's premature. So we don't say game over. Next up on the list is Zion Williamson.
So give me like a 2-minute warning on that. It don't have to be game over, but we don't have to go to overtime. Let's go to like a 2-minute drill on that, or a 1-minute drill.
I mean, I would say I hate it for all parties involved, right?
Yes.
Obviously, if there are women who are violated,
so the story is,
let's fill people in.
Recently, Zion Williamson, who is the star player of the New Orleans Pelicans, he was sued by a young lady who said that he assaulted her physically, emotionally, financially for many, many years. And then he has an ex-girlfriend who's gone to Tony Busby, Mr. Sue the Black Man. She went to him to say that she might want to file a lawsuit. So Zion Williamson he's
an underachiever.
He's the original street clothes. He has so much potential when he's on, but he cannot stay on the court. He has played very few games. So we hear more about his life off the court than we do on the court, because he hardly ever plays.
Yeah. And so, I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate for him because, at least in this, the end of this season, people were talking about how he's lost so much weight, getting really into shape. And here you go again. This is the second year in a row where his off-court life has kind of been the major headline. And I just think that that's a bad look.
He's 24 years old, right?
He's 24 years old.
I think John Morant, Anthony Edwards, they need a support group. They have so many yes people around them that, they're so young and making all these mistakes off the court. And like you said last episode, for some reason, John can't stop doing the shooting or the grenade.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's something wrong with him. But his father, they have yes people around them that, don't check them because they're afraid they'll be cut off or whatever. But I don't know what the league can do You know,
the league don't need to do nothing.
Like,
it's up to them to protect their investment. So his contract, he signed a 5-year, $197.2 million deal in 2022, and the last 3 seasons of his contract are non-guaranteed. So that's in his this 25-26 season is non-guaranteed, 26-27. So baby, you better get yourself together.
Well, the Pelicans
are waived.
They're looking at breaking up the team anyway. So everybody's like, you know, there's a Pistons site that was like, who could the Pistons use? Because they use CJ McCollum, who's one of their guys, but he's been underachieving. Could we use Zion Williamson?
I do not want to see Zion. First of all,
but they have some other role
Zion
players.
Williamson come to Detroit. It's over. The D girls gonna have him turn him every which way but lose.
He won't even know what to do.
Right? Keep Zion out of the D, please. You said Madden cover. So what we doing? Game over, overtime.
So now we're moving on to the next topic. The next is this game over overtime, and I'll give me another 1 minute warning. Saquon Barkley is on the cover of Madden 26, and there's 2 things about that. I love the fact that he got to recreate the hurdle or whatever it was. There was a play where he like turned around and jumped up over a player to get the first down last year, and so they recreated it for the cover of Madden. So I kind of like that. I like that he gets his shine. But one thing about the Madden cover is the Madden curse. They always talk about the Madden curse. And I think Patrick Mahomes was the one recently who defied that and went and won the Super Bowl after he was on the cover. So the question with that, and we'll see if that if Saquon Barkley suffers from the Madden curse. So. But congratulations to Saquon. Even though he went to the White House and was playing golf.
I was like, we was rooting for you. But it's so I will just say, right, it's a trend, and we don't have to go any further than that. But RG3, Saquon, all of them, it's a trend. You just have to connect the dots a little bit. Yeah. We don't have to discuss it, so we won't go into overtime. But I just wanted to say the SI swimsuit issue came out. Wanted to big up Alona Mayer. I think is wonderful example as a female rugby player, again, of this like competitive yet feminine, right, icon. My daughter told me that I should check her out, and now is trying to play rugby, and I'm like, no, you are not playing rugby. But I was laughing at her because she had posted last year she was in SI as well, the swimsuit edition, and she had said that there was another model talking about how she had fasted basically and was just doing, a juice fast to prepare for the shoot. And she was like, "Oh, you talking to the wrong person. Like, I eat, and I lived inside." Again, I think it's just wonderful to see examples of physically strong women who are competitors, right? And I think that's what American society is grappling with as women's sports continues to take off. But I know we're going into overtime.
Yeah, so shout out to SI Swimsuit Issue for being inclusive.
Yes. But I know
our main topic.
Right, we're going to overtime on this. Maybe double overtime.
There's this new trend of, and maybe it's not a new trend, but it's a current event trend. It's a current trend of these female rappers dating football players. You got my girl
leveling up, not just dating, but leveling up.
Okay, leveling up.
Yes.
Left their, previous relationship, and I don't know if Stefon. Well, I guess that is a level up from Offset, but so
Upset.
Our girl Cash Doll. Here I go. Is dating our boy Za'Darius Smith, who everybody in Detroit fell in love with when he came as a free agent last year.
Right.
He came to the Lions as a free agent and immediately made an impact. But he was released, for various reasons. Not performance or anything. It was more cap issues, I think. And then we have our girl Cardi B, Belcalis. She is dating Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs is a wide receiver in the NFL. He used to play for Minnesota Vikings, right? And then he went to the Buffalo Bills, and then he went to the Houston Texans, and now he's in New England. He's a New England Patriot. He just signed a $69 million contract. So those are the two. I'm sure there are more, but those are the two that come to mind with the female rapper dating the football player.
And it has social media on fire. I mean, I think, women, men, everybody is weighing in on, what it's like to be an ex and see your significant other date someone who's, in the public eye, who may have a bigger profile than you have, having fun. I think for me, and we talked about this as well with Stefon Diggs recently, right, going viral for him and Cardi kind of partying it up in Miami. Heard about him and his brother or whatever, a lot of off the field antics. I think, again, what is disappointing, right, is the fact that you signed a new contract, you go into a new team, and your new coach has to answer questions about you, what it looks like, right, in the video of you handing pink cocaine, right, to women or whatever on the yacht, and you instructing them like, here you go, right? Don't take it all. Have some fun and come back to me later. And I think when I saw that, I was just like, you dumb.
Yeah. And cameras are on you everywhere.
Right.
You probably got the cameras.
Dumb as hell.
Yeah.
And I understand everybody wants to have fun. Everybody wants to party. But again, your contract, right, is your livelihood. It's an investment. We're your people, your security, your entourage, taking the cameras because you're putting, right, your money at risk. And I think that's what I don't understand. And obviously, as we know, there's been, case after case after case of women alleging, right, that they've been sexually abused, physically abused, drugged, and you now have this video of you out. So, I don't know if it's a better look for Cardi. It's obviously, right, getting her in the media, but there was a clip that went viral a few years ago where they were asking players on the Bills, is there one player in the locker room that you would never want to date your sister? Yeah. And all them folks was like, Stefon.
He was like, I'm a good guy.
That's right. So we know, hopefully, again, nothing comes out of this, but the fact, again, that his coach had to address it, I think it's just poor form. Maybe my sister calls me HR because she says that I'm always thinking about HR. Yeah. But if I'm a coach, if I'm a front office, and you can't handle your off the court stuff,
it's crazy. Stefon Diggs, very high profile receiver, one of the best in the league. And his brother, Trayvon Diggs, one of the best defensive players in the league, plays for the Cowboys. They both have off-field drama that makes its way on in the headlines that, kind of at certain points, it overshadows their play.
That's right.
Right? And let your game speak, not you. Another point is... I bring up these female rappers and these women because another point is that their exes are on social media punching the air because because they I guess they think nobody else wants you, and then when they move on they're like
but it's the short kings. Okay, let's be clear, it's the short kings.
It's Offset short. What's he, about 5'8"?
Yeah, I don't even think he's 5'6".
Cardi B I think is really short, so he looks tall.
I don't even think he's 5'8".
You don't think he's 5'8"?
No,
okay.
No,
so that's one that we went over time on, but that's just a trend, but I want to see where it goes. It looks like, I don't think Cardi and Stefon will last, because I just think it's just a fling. I think
she there
Cash Doll might get wiped up.
She there for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, Cash Doll is in.
Well, I guess in closing, we wanted to go to our last segment, which is from the cheap seats, where we pull one or two questions from social media / email, and just give an off the cuff kind of response. So we have one here. I guess we want to tackle the one here, Jen.
Yes. So the question came in, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but we'll talk about it just for a couple of minutes here. Are the Tigers for real this time, or are we getting our hopes up just to be let down in October? I was like, okay. Remember what I said earlier? AJ Hinch is a World Series manager.
Mm-hmm. So you want to believe?
I want to believe.
You want to believe?
But the story that no one mentions is that these Tigers were put together by Al Avila. He was the former GM, and or like no, he wasn't the GM. He was like the president or the operations, whatever. But they kind of say this is his team. But AJ Hinch is making them play at their top level. Like, he's putting together the pieces that are winning these games. Nobody expected it. I think they're for real. I'm gonna say that my Tigers are for real.
So call it now. What's
these are gonna be more like the 1984 Tigers than the 2006 Tigers.
Okay, so June 3rd. How far do they get, Jim? We gonna come back.
We going all the way.
We going all the way.
Go win it.
Okay, I like the confidence. So you heard it here first.
I like our bullpen. I like our. Even our bullpen, they're not giving up games. If Tarek Skubal, he's gonna leave a game, it's gonna be 1-0. So, they're not like blowing us out or anything like that. We blew another. This is another thing, and this is personal right here. I play fantasy baseball, and on Mondays you have to reset your team. On Monday, I dropped. A player was. Look, I'm kind of hurt. I can't even think of his name. But he comes in last night, his 3 home runs, right after I dropped him.
So you heard it here.
So I say that to say any player on this team can step up and make a difference. We have role players that step up when the rest of the team is down, and they take it. I mean, they won 13-1 last night. These Tigers are for real.
Well, you heard it here on June 3rd, 2025. Jen is calling the Detroit Tigers.
We're going to the World Series.
But you said going all the way, though. Winning the World Series, right?
We win the World Series.
Winning the World Series.
Fun fact, the Tigers play an interleague series of games this weekend with the Chicago Cubs, and they're saying the ticket sales are off the charts and that they might have some of the largest crowds in a long time. They're playing the Cubs.
Yeah, so we'll have to check that out. I'm looking forward to, as we continue to grow, having our community and our listeners maybe having auntie nights at some of the Pistons or maybe even the Tigers game. So as always, it has been great kind of talking sports with you.
Carrie Carpenter. I had to look up the name because I'm very hurt about that. Carrie Carpenter, I'm sorry I dropped you yesterday. But the question is, do I go pick her back up? Okay, anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you all for listening. As always, it's a joy to talk about something that we love from an auntie perspective.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned for future episodes. Like when we post these out, make sure you like and subscribe to our various channels. And give us some suggestions on some things that you want us to talk about. We will talk about it. We like our audience to ask us questions that we can answer in our own unique auntie way. So thank you for tuning in. Signing off. This is Auntie Jen. But we are two aunties,
two mics,
all game. Signing off, Auntie Jen
and Auntie Kalia. Lord, do you know President?